Welcome to the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent.
Steve, welcome back to Friday at 4. How are you?
All right, I'm doing well, Chuck. Thanks. How are you? How was the week?
I'm doing fantastic. Been a pretty busy week. So we got our guest today, Bill Reynolds. How are you?
Doing well. Nice to meet you all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you as
thanks for
well.
taking the time to come on and join us on the Friday for a podcast today.
I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here. I'm down here no, it's not sunny. Down in Louisville, Kentucky. It's
Not
not
sunny?
sunny. It's just cold and rainy and snowy like everywhere else around
Ye-
the country.
It's like Maryland and New York, right, Steve?
Yeah,
Whew.
New York's just as bad. Okay.
Yeah, I would say you guys are probably a little worse than we are. I'm not gonna say just as bad. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna put ourselves up there with you guys.
yeah, yeah. We were supposed to get sub-zero temperature over the weekend.
Yeah, I heard about that. You're supposed to get some really cold wind
Just
blowing through in this area too. So that is what it is. We're
yeah.
used
Oh
to it.
well.
Whatever. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. So everybody wants more customers, but nobody wants to talk about why customers actually choose one business over another, right? It's not ads, it's not luck, it's a triangle, branding, reviews, and relationships. And today we're pulling it apart to show how real growth actually happened. What do you guys think?
I
I can't agree more. So I that's my short answer, but I interrupted you, Steve. Go ahead, jump
no,
in.
no, no, no. I was going to say the same thing. I absolutely agree that a widget is a widget is a widget,
Yeah.
but
Well, I think
it's
And
this
the
if
came together good,
relationship.
right? Because Bill is branding. We'll let Bill talk about what he does in his business. And then, with me with reviews and you with relationship, right? I think it kind of works
Mhm.
all three together because,
It does.
this topic kind of fell together as Steve and I, we talked about this, it kind of fits. So good, guys.
But when we talk about branding, branding's your whole how are you perceived in the marketplace? How do people think you are? And it's not how do you think you are? Because a lot of
Mhm.
times when we're working with customers, we have this idea of, I am this person or I'm this kind of company and we do this kind of thing. And you talk to the customers and their view may be slightly off or way off, and then you're like, oh wow, something's not right here. And there's just so much competition in the world today because there are many, many different businesses that do the same thing as all of us do. I mean, there's not only one branding and marketing agency in the country or in the world for that matter. And that's the other thing with the internet, with global relations, our 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 world is much smaller, is much larger now than it used to be. It used to be
Mm.
you had to, everything was within arm's reach. So if I wanted to buy something, interact with something, I needed goods or services, it was the people right around me. But now we're in this digital big age. My vendor could be anywhere in the world sometimes,
Correct.
depending on the service I need. And I think now with the advent of even more technology, more digital stuff and AI and all these other things, you're back to what you were talking at the beginning, Charles, of reviews, because reviews are really going to be an indicator of the relationships that I have and based on my brand matching up with the branding that I've put out there. And so if you really boil all those down, it's really authenticity. That's what drives people, at
Right.
least in my opinion. So.
Yeah, I agree. People buy people.
Mhm.
And where you can physically reach out and touch someone, great. They see that you're real. If you're talking about the internet, if they don't necessarily see you, they're reading about you. So what are they reading? What are they videos, text, whatever. So again, to your point, it's the brand, the branding. It's how are they, and you know this much better than I do. I'm just talking off my limited knowledge. How do you differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack? And that's where the relationships come in. And I'm very big on relationships. Um, I'm not sure if it's the disc profile or another one, and I'm not an expert on it, but I've been told through several of those studies that I'm a relationship driven person.
Yeah.
And I know that because I will put off to a fault. I will put off doing business with someone to build a relationship. which is okay to a point. But again, it's the relationship. Get to know somebody, like them, trust them, want to do business both ways. That's my whole thing. And I know Chuck does a lot of stuff with reviews with a lot of his businesses that he goes in and talks to, right, Chuck?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what, you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about relationships, right? Because, without building relationships between business to business and business to customers, your reviews will show it, right? So if a customer leaves a bad review, well, that relationship was broken somewhere, whether it be the food, whether it be the business, whether it be, the customer service, timing, whatever it could be. So it's kind of broken, right?
It does.
Well, and then when you talk about reviews, I mean, the other thing too is that even the authenticity of those reviews, as you guys were talking about, that because you'll see a lot of times, people will just report, a star rating or satisfaction, but what people really want, they want to see the words. They want to see that, yes, I really enjoyed working with Steve because of this. Whenever Chuck came in, he opened my eyes because of this. Not like, not just like, yeah, thumbs up. They want to, and again, it's back to that authenticity of who they are, who they are talking about, and what services they're actually seeing from you, rather than just throwing this on as a top level, just kind of like, yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing Steve and I talk about a lot is my main word is the truth. I show you the truth, So yeah, I mean, go ahead, Steve, before I was gonna you were
No,
gonna
what I
talk.
was I was the next bill a question. In your experience, and again, you may or may not have heard this, so okay. But I've heard and read that somebody will look at you and your business on the internet and be 90% ready to buy, but just want to talk to you to make sure you're a real person and not a bot. Have you ever heard that? Or what are your thoughts on? If you have, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, because and it's also it's location based as well, and that's not like a mean thing. Like I only do business with
Mm,
U.S. based companies or those
mm,
things, but just you are who you say you are.
mm,
It's just like whenever you get on the phone with a tech support or with some other things, and if they have a foreign or an overseas call center, and the guy says, "My name is John," but he's not speaking with an American accent, he's got something else.
mm.
Immediately, you're kind of like, "Wait, what's going on here? Why is that?" And it's not a racist or mean thing. It's
No.
just something trustworthy is not there. And
Hmm.
so and now more than ever, people are double triple checking. It's just like getting
Mm,
an email or something. You go to look and like, is this who it's supposed to be from? Because especially if they're asking for a decision or for you to make a change, financial, something like that.
mhm.
Those things
Yeah.
always come out. And then with the advent of AI, there's just so much garbage that's starting
Right.
to come out, and it's just generating its own,
Mm,
and it's just changing and changing and changing. And so that communication also it's not just did you answer the phone, but even talking and asking a couple of questions. Because the scary part is, Steve, you were talking about AI and bots. I mean, they can talk, they can listen, they
yeah.
can interact, and they can do it with our voice. It's not
Mhm.
just sitting down and having to do prompts on a computer keyboard.
Yeah,
I
and
I
Bill, before we get a little bit too far out, I'm going to cut you off again, Steve. But I wanted, Bill to take a chance to introduce, himself and his business and what he does, because I didn't get the chance to do that in the beginning of the podcast. So, real quick, Bill, go ahead and tell our audience who you are and what you do, so we have an
Oh, sure.
idea of where your mind is.
Sure,
Sorry
yeah,
about that.
I'm Bill Reynolds. No, no problem. Bill Reynolds, our company's Element 502, Element 502. We're a marketing and advertising agency based out of Louisville, Kentucky. So we specialize in online presence as well as physical presence, branding, positioning, all the things that we're talking about, and how do all of those work together to increase your chances to be seen and chosen. And then, as people are making that decision on whether to buy or to interact with you as a professional service or a physical goods.
nice.
Gotcha, appreciate that. Go ahead, Steve.
No problem.
What I was going to say is just to tack on to Bill's last statement. I equate who are you really to online dating and then meeting the person. Because in many cases, that picture they're putting up of Steve is not the real Steve when you meet Steve. It could be a picture that's 20 years younger, could be somebody that has hair because I don't, it could be any number of things. So it's that, are you real? So to your point, yeah, are you really who you say you are? Are you going to give me the service you say you're going to give me? So that's a very valid point that you brought up before. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. That's what I love about what I do when I add the podcast to the show. That gives the audience who's watching that security that this is Steve's business. This is Steve. He's real. And it shows that passion he has for his business. So when they're seeing my show and they're watching, they can say, that guy's real. I want to go visit him. I love what he's about. And it takes that mystique about that business out, right? You no longer see that 3.5 on Google, or that 68% recommended on Facebook, and you're not sure about it. But when you watch Steve or you watch Bill and you hear them interact on the show, man, they're like, that guy's real. I like what they're doing. And they reach out and they contact. And that's why part of what I do is so important. It takes that mysterious part out, right?
Well, I'm going to go back to Bill's point before. Your, I don't mean you specific, general statement. You're in a world where internet, social media, in a split second, the world knows what you did right or more quickly what you did wrong. So it's becoming more and more crucial. I was going to say critical and crucial at the same time. So I've said whatever. But it's more and more
Appreciate it.
critical that I can't speak today. But that you do what you say you're going to do, and you do it right the first time. Because if not, it's spread very quickly. So it's important that you show up and to Chuck's point, to be real. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, it's that, and again, it's all back to that authenticity or that truth, those kinds of things. That's what people want. And I don't think any of us are in the business of 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 being tall tale tellers. Our goal is to bring truth to people. Even sometimes it's not the truth they want to hear. It's
Sure.
there. And then from a business standpoint, that's valuable right off the bat, because if you're truthful and honest about what you're doing, what you're selling, how you're doing it, you may not be the best fit for that person. And so
Correct.
how much better is it to just go ahead and just and make everybody happy by saying, okay, so this is not a place we need to work together and
Right.
move forward,
But
instead of trying to keep track of what was or wasn't said and
right.
moving on. That
But
just
the
gets in trouble quick.
advantage, at least in my mind, the advantage, and I've had this many times in my career, the advantage of being honest and real is I can go home at night and I can sleep and face my family. If I was not honest and just
Amen.
did what the customer wanted, which might not be in their best interest, even though they want it, it's going to come back to me in the end anyway. Why'd you tell me to do it? Why'd you agree to it when you knew it was wrong? So
Yeah.
be honest every time.
Yep. And like Bill said, right? You find out who that person is, you might not be a good fit. And I think it's important to really build that relationship, because even though two people might not work well together, but maybe the relationship could still get through, even though the two
Mm,
businesses can work well together. So
right.
there's that part too, right? Where we might not see eye to eye, but yet our businesses could flourish because we have that synergy with what we're working on, right? So there's that part too, right?
There is. It's a whole
Exactly.
relationship. It's the
Yeah.
personality, it's the business, um, long term, short term, long term. There's a whole bunch of things that come into that, and it's all got to fit. Because if and people have to be willing to say, you know what, it is for the benefit of the businesses. Put my bias aside, put my like or dislike for somebody aside, because the business, all the employees, the customers, the vendors, everybody's going to benefit. So, yeah, I may not like you, but basically suck it up, you know, um, and just
Yeah.
let it go.
Yeah. Great question for Bill. What do you see when you take on clients that actually, what we're talking about here is, do you see that to where the message isn't consistent? And does that throw people off if your message isn't consistent? For example, I don't have the same kind of profile on Facebook that I do on Instagram, on my website, but yet the message seems to be the same, but yet the branding's not looking the same. Do you think that hurts people by not having that consistent message going out there? Do you find that could be something that could hinder someone's relationship when you're trying to work with someone like for the first time?
100%, because those are all just like even from the very beginning when Steve was talking about just are you a bot? Are you real? If
Right.
there's those small things that start to show up in your as you're doing your research, as you're clicking through, that just don't line up. Or if you're hearing different and messaging and branding could be colors, it could be the word, it could be the
Mhm.
tones, it could be what you're talking about as far as like subject matter. And if you feel that there's something in there that's just that doesn't belong or looks like bumps in the road, it really starts to make it it really will play in your mind of like, well, maybe I'll just rank them a little bit further down the list. We see that where I sometimes with marketing or messaging, it could be on social where a company doesn't have a dedicated resource to start that process. And so it's just kind of a round robin, like whoever has time, go and throw something up. That's different than a blog on a website or something like that, because the blogs have authors there. You're expecting that, oh, okay, well, Steve wrote this one, Chuck wrote this one, Bill wrote this one. They're probably three different people. They're going to have it, they're going to be talking similarly because it's the same company or the same concept, but differently because they're different people. Under social, though, they don't see who's posting, they just see your company. And so as you're putting messaging out into the marketplace, whether it's on TV, radio, billboards, social, on your website, whatever those front pages are, yes, that consistency matters a lot because any of those chances that you have to break trust, it's really quickly to slip backwards and it's hard to gain ground on it. So and especially with AI now because people are filters are just through the roof of all of this. I was talking with a guy today, and so there's a term that we use. It's called a M dash. M as in Mary, and that's the longer dash that you use when you write versus an N as in Nancy dash, which is the
Mm.
shorter dash. And most of us just use the N dash because to find the M dash, usually it's a special keyboard character or something like that. But if you run any kind of text through one of the AI tools, whether it's
Mm.
Claude or Chat or any of these things, most of the time they'll spit out something that's full of emojis and with
Mm.
those M dashes, the long ones.
Okay.
And I was talking with a guy today. He was like, "Dadgummit, I use the M dash. Like that's something I use in my everyday kind of thing, but I have to go through and take that out because one of the things that people say, like, oh, that's AI." And he's like, "It's not
AI.
AI, it's me."
Mm.
But any of those things that cause people just to smell around and be like, yeah, I don't know, they'll jump. And it's just, and again, it's because there's the depth of choices is too much. So anything that just feels a little bit off, you're gone. I mean, think about it.
Well,
Whenever you search for something on Google, you go to a website. If it's confusing, if it takes too long to load,
mhm.
if you don't like the way you just go to
Right.
the next one,
Right.
to the next one, to the next one, or you've got like 18 tabs and you just start closing. Just depending on what kind of
Yeah.
searcher you are.
Well,
But yeah,
yeah,
we have no tolerance for it anymore.
no.
There's just too many.
Well, it's also unfortunately, in the age that we live in, there are so many scams out there that if you are not, when they call you or whatever, and it's not what they're expecting to see, they immediately think it's a scam. They hang up, they delete it, and whatever else. And I do that a
Okay.
lot. I get a lot of emails.
Yeah.
I don't even open them up. I just delete, delete, delete
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
you
it's
don't
true.
know who you're talking to, what you're reading, is it legit or not. So I delete a huge number of emails every day. My phone, I don't know if you heard my phone went off before. It said potential scam. I just swiped up, got rid of it. Well, first of all, I should have turned it off. I apologize for that. But that was it. It was a potential scam. And if somebody really wants me, they're going to leave a voicemail.
Yeah.
That's the way I do it. This way I don't have to talk to everybody and
Yeah.
spend time telling people sorry, 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 sorry.
Yeah. That's one of the problems I'm facing right now is, other than physically walking into a potential prospect and saying, "Hey, I'm Charles from Q.A.C team with my show," boom. If I send an email or if I call, man, you're automatically a scam, and
Yeah.
it's hard to hear back from people. And I'm sure, Bill, you see that a lot when you're working with your clients. That message actually getting to people can be quite awful, right?
Well, yeah, and then what do you do? What you were saying, Steve, it goes even a little bit deeper. If you get an ad or you see a post and you click on it, if that place where you end up after the click doesn't agree visually and message and all, and just kind of where did I end up where I thought I should be,
Right.
right? And then
Right.
you immediately turn around and you leave. If it could be the same place, it could be right, but you're just like, no, not buying it. I'm out of
Does
here.
right.
No.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
does. And
Yeah.
with all it's not just the scams, it's also the what do you call it? Where they capture the cybersecurity stuff where they can, the phishing and all that stuff,
Yeah. All
where
your
they can
phishing and
get
scam
into
emails.
your
Yep.
computer and stuff. So you got to be so careful. And unfortunately, the legitimate companies that are off just that little bit that you referred to, they may not get a chance or even a second chance, and they're losing potential opportunities. It's unfortunate, but yeah, it's the age we live in. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a different. I mean, you figure if you go back just 10 years, look how different things are just 10 years ago. And you
Mhm.
go back 20 years, look how different things were. Because, back then the scams were maybe not as many, but they were really crucial, right? Because we didn't really understand them. And we just click on some, oh, look, somebody sent me something. Boom. And I said, no, you're in trouble. And so today that's why I like what Bill does. You have that identity. So if your message is clear and consistent, you don't have to worry about that because you know that it's Chuck or that it's Steve because that message has been consistent and clear. So when you see things that come to are kind of odd, right? That would throw a red flag up to say, I don't know if that's really Steve or Bill. Let me really
Right.
look into this a little bit and take a little deeper dive. So you're cautious, right, of clicking
Mhm.
and mulling around on somebody's website that comes across your phone or your computer. That's one thing why I like what I do is that it's video, it's real. We recorded it. We know that that's the message that Bill put out. That's the message that Steve put out. So like this podcast, right? When people watch us, they know we're real. We're here. People, this is their what? Almost our 80th episode with this. So we definitely, we had that clear, concise message of what we are putting out and what we're doing.
It's the world we live in.
Yeah.
It's people are becoming more skeptical and they're afraid. You hear all the calls from, this is your bank. Well, the bank never calls you directly. This is the IRS. Well, the IRS never calls you directly. But there's so much volume going out through automated tools that they can robo dial millions of people a day. And you just got to be so careful when you answer the phone.
Yep.
So it
And
all
AI
boils
has
down to
been,
the same thing, that trust and authenticity. And
yeah.
so if it's a great defense against AI and scams. It's a great defense against liars and people who are less than truthful. And
Mhm.
it's the biggest and sticky. It's the stickiest way to to get customers and to keep customers.
Right.
Because when you work in that and when you work in that type of environment, then you're not just a commodity. People aren't just checking to see how much does it cost for you versus somebody else. They're like,
Mhm.
oh, I like Chuck. I like Steve. I like Bill. I like the team behind them. I'm going to work with these people. And somebody else can show up, but if we're doing our job and that trust factor is high, all these other things are high, they're not going to leave. They're not going to go look at something else because they like us and we've earned that trust. That's an earned and not a bot or bot BOUG, not a like a robot, but I've paid for type of trust that's in there. And it's an earn and it's a continued, but we can continue to put work into that to be able to keep that at that level.
And to go a step further, in today's environment, when you do find that person that you like, trust working with, as long as you continue to produce the right stuff, you're going to keep that client for a while because they don't want to go somewhere else and risk less service, getting deceived or anything else, and the hit to the business if it's not legitimate. So yeah, if you can do the right job, you could have customers for a while. So there's the advantage of that too, of being real and honest and authentic to your word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why, I always put that snapshot together for every business that I work with because I think it's good to see where you stand versus your competitors and what's out there from your competitors and not just you worrying about you. Because although you might be a 3.8, your competitor might be a 4.5, but yet you're doing it better than they are because, well, the snapshot shows that you are better than them, but because your views aren't really authentic, you got bots, you got angry people who are just giving you bad ratings for whatever reason,
Mhm.
you know, we come in and show you and your our audience and your whoever is watching that yeah, you should be a 4.0 or 5.0, but you're at 3.2 or 3.8 because of what you're seeing online. So my comparison actually helps fight that, right?
No, you're doing a good service, because you're coming in as the independent person and showing them how to be better and to become more real and authentic. So yeah, it's a great service.
Yeah,
Oh, back
and
at you.
that's the I was going to say, and that's the measurement of what you're talking about from your side, Chuck, is the real numbers, right? It's not just some
Yeah,
put together
Mm,
fake type stuff. I mean, we used to talk about that
right.
when I was in IT. You would get all these certifications. Well, those certifications just meant I could take a test. That doesn't mean anything about
Correct.
how well I
Correct.
can actually do the work, right? And
Correct.
so
love it.
those type of things
Yeah,
like what you talk about from Q.A.C. and then Steve, what you talk about in the way that you're dealing with your customers and your clients. It's, hey, sure, I can put it in a spreadsheet or I can throw it here. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at real people, the way real people interact with
Mhm.
a real brand for a real choice, and
Correct.
what can you take from that? And then as a owner, then our job is to say, hey, I'm not going to look at the numbers. I'm not going to look at those things that are over there because that's noise. What I'm going to focus on
Mhm.
is the truth. And the truth is that we deliver a good service at a fair price, and to piggyback right on what Steve said, we can go home, we can tell our family where the money came from with all integrity
Right.
and with no and have not having to do gymnastics around the truth. And we can go to sleep at night and wake up the next morning knowing that even if someone put something negative in front of us, or even if somebody said they were upset, we did the best job we could, and we can authentically stand behind it and say, I did my best. It just didn't work because we can't please 100% of the people.
No, you won't. You'll never try. And the idea, and again, my mind of telling, and Chuck does the same thing by telling the truth all the time. It can never come back to you because it was the truth. People may not like it. They may choose not to do business with you, and that's their choice, but it is the truth.
yeah,
So you never have to worry about, well, I told Bill one thing, I told Chuck something else. It's the same thing across the board, and that's the
yeah,
truth.
yeah.
So to me, that's more important because it's your integrity in the end of it when it comes down to it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and Steve, this is something I never mentioned since we've met and been doing all this. So when I first restarted, Bill, I don't know if you know, I used to be a mystery shopper. That's how I got started with this years ago. And I converted to this business. And that actually came up in one of my very first hit to one of my potential clients. I reached out to a company who actually fired back at me and said, you're just trying to cover you being a mystery shopping company over top of your podcast. We don't want to work with you. And that was exactly what happened. And it made me sad because you didn't give me a chance to really
Mm,
show you who I was because I could have helped that business. But I get it too, right? It's the fact that they didn't trust me yet because I'm just up and coming. And now I bet if I reach out to that company now, they may have a different feeling about me. But that's something that we're here talking about is what that very thing that happened to me early on is they didn't know me, they didn't trust me, they thought I was covering up for something, right? And that's where it went. Went to a dead end client.
You can't change somebody else's opinions.
Yeah.
They're going to think what they're going to think. So if you do the right thing, have the right branding, have the right message across the board, and you're consistent when they talk to you with what is on the internet and on wherever else, yeah, that's all you can do. And just do
Yeah.
the
I
best you
mean,
can.
I'm telling you, yep. What a great podcast. And what this, I'll tell you this, I love when we have guests come on because we just flow and this podcast, I mean, all three of us just kind of like we just fit together. I really love this. And I wish we had more time to really keep this going. And Bill, you can come on anytime you want on this podcast at 4 o'clock here. We're open. We love to have guests, but it's a shame that we're coming into a close. And I wanted to reach out and say, to reach out to Steve at 516-727-2294. Bill at what's it, 502 two six seven zero
0
nine
Yep,
nine nine, right? Yeah.
that's
And
it.
and and Chuck at 502-267. Whoops, sorry,
Nope.
wrong number.
That's
Sorry,
Bill.
Chuck. Bill. All right, Chuck, your number's cut off. I can't read it. It's 410-935.
6132. That's Chuck
6132.
with
6132.
Q.A.C. 410-935-6132.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You should be in radio, Bill. You got a great voice.
That's the radio voice right there. There you
There you
got to
go.
hear.
Yeah,
There you
man.
go.
Yeah. Guys, thanks a lot for coming on the podcast. In closing here, let's just talk a little bit about, again, like, in closing, Bill, of what you do, who you're looking for, what's your potential client, and where you're going from here.
So we're here to help people with marketing and advertising. And you were talking about authenticity of messaging and branding. If anybody's interested, you can go to a website. It's called 599 Haircut, 599haircut.com. It's got a great story on there. I'll give you just a quick, super high level. And with an asterisk, after I wrote all this stuff and put it all down, my wife proofreads it and tells me that there was actually an Office Depot ad that was made on this same story. I said, I don't care. This is my story. It's real. So, and you can believe me because it's authentic. But I went to a national haircut chain. They were advertising $5.99 haircuts. I needed a haircut for something the next day. I go in. It's after work. Wait's an hour and a half. I'm like, oh golly, that's way too long to wait. So I went to a local barber shop because there wasn't a wait. Sit down. It says on the wall, $15 for a haircut. As the man's cutting my hair, I talked to him and just carrying on conversation. I said, hey, I work for marketing and advertising. I'm just curious. What's the difference between your $15 haircut and that $5.99 haircut? And guy looks at me with all sincerity. He goes, Bill, that's real simple. I fix $5.99 haircuts. So I think that's
I
it.
like
Yeah,
that.
it just everybody does.
Love it.
That story resonates. So if you can go to
Yes, it does.
599haircut.com, there's a button right there you can download. Just a quick guide looking at how you position yourself with messaging, with marketing. It is completely ungated. You don't have to give me a phone number. You're not going to see weird pop-ups, any of that stuff. I figure if you're listening to me and you have some questions, that's a great way to go and download a resource, learn some things, and then there's a link in the back of that to book time on my schedule. I'll sit and talk with you about your marketing and advertising. It's 15 minutes. It's free, no strings attached. Now, if you scroll down a little bit more, there is a give us your email and we'll give you 30 minutes, and there's a little bit more. But hey, it says very clearly, like, this is here's what your trade is. But if you're just in the 15 minutes, that's fine. We're giving it away. And to narrow it down a little bit, we're looking for anybody that just needs help with that branding, with marketing and advertising, and sees it as a thing that maybe it's not necessarily something that you can just do for yourself. Maybe you need someone else's help that's in there. I'm happy to be your resource because I can help steer people from making really bad decisions early on in their marketing that they think is going to be cheaper or better or more cost efficient, that will end up costing you long term
Gotcha.
a whole lot more. So
Send that
that's what
link
we're for.
over
We're
to
just
me,
here to
Bill.
help.
Send
Sure,
that link
I
over
sure
to me. I'll
will.
put it in the show notes. Yeah, absolutely. Steve,
Fantastic.
here we are at the close of another Friday at 4 because
Yep. It's 4:00 somewhere. That's my claim to fame. It's 4:00 somewhere.
that's his claim to fame, Bill. We started that early on this podcast. We said we got to make that the closing of all of our episodes. It's 4:00 somewhere.
And it works.
Fine. Hey, it's it. That's it. It always is, right? So, and then as 5 o'clock comes, then it's time to just shut it down and have a good
There
one.
you go.
You
There you
got
go.
it, right?
We're good.
Exactly. Bill, Steve, man, it's been a great episode. I really appreciate it. Thanks for
Yep.
coming on. I
Thank you,
really
Chuck.
enjoyed
Thank you,
this
Bill.
episode. Yeah, man. Thanks, guys. And
Thanks, guys.
have a great rest of the day and the evening. Have a great weekend. And we will chat soon. And take care, everybody.
Got it. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Steve, I'll see you guys.
Thanks.
You've been watching the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent. Thanks for watching.